I'm super excited for today and for you coming on the show. I'm gonna say Cryptograffiti because I know I'm not pronouncing it the right way, but it's really hard for me to pronounce it the other way, so that's what gonna go with for the show. But thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Josie.
Yeah, of course. We're going to let everyone pop up here into the stream. Definitely say hi in the chat. Let us know you're here and watching. And everyone, also, as you pop in, don't forget, as we go through the show, feel free and ask questions as they come up. And I'll definitely answer or ask them as we can. Hey, Easy, nice to see you here. Hey, Martin Lucas. Hey, Stefan. Wrong bedroom, B Grinner. Nice to see you all here. But yeah, thank you all for coming on and watching Behind the Art for already 2 full seasons, now onto the third, which is crazy because it's 21 guests a season. So I'm super excited to kick this one off with you. Hey, everyone there. So we're going to do things just a little bit differently this season than other seasons. Normally I do all of these closing questions at the end where I ask you, like, I don't know, it's kind of like a lot of questions, but I'm going to start switching them and doing some in the beginning and some at the end. And they're new questions. I try to switch them every season. So they're ones
Yeah.
that I haven't asked before. And to be honest, some are a little weird. So if they're too weird, you let me know and I'll switch them for the next guest. Um, so I'll start with the first three, and then I'll jump into the sponsor, which will be really quick. You guys know it takes me like 40 seconds. And then we'll get into the show, and then I'll ask you some closing questions too. Um, but to start and do some icebreakers, here's the first question. If you could be on a reality TV show, which one would you choose and why?
I'm gonna pass on that one.
Pass? All right.
Just kidding.
It's a weird
um,
one.
what, what's the What's the dancing one with it's like
Dancing with the
really well
Stars?
choreographed? So you think you can dance?
So
No,
you
so you
think you could.
think you can dance?
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. That's a good one.
I can't. I can't, but it's like the show itself is really amazing.
Okay.
So I guess in this hypothetical, it would mean that I can dance, and then that would be the one that I'd want to be on. I like it because it's like it's not like overproduced. So like a
Yeah.
lot of the reality shows now, like some of them are just plain fake,
Yeah.
and then this one is just like pure talent, right? You see these. Have you seen it? Have
I
you seen the
haven't.
show?
I've heard of it and I know what it is, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
But
Oh
no,
yeah, it's
maybe I will.
amazing. So it's like top, top tier. They have like Alvin Ailey, like some of the best dance troops in the world on there. So
Wait, no, I have
yeah,
seen
but
it. I have seen it a while ago, and there's a lot of it's groups, right? It's not just one person.
the yeah, they'll like pair them together.
Oh,
So
okay, okay.
it's like similar in other reality shows format wise, where they're like, okay, now you're with this person this week,
Got
but
it, got it.
it's like a lot of the BS is like cut out of it, so it's just like them doing their dance for the week and then like one other special thing. Anyway,
Cool.
yeah, that would be my one.
Nice. I
How about you?
probably Yeah, I probably picked that question because I've been watching. So I lived under a rock apparently my whole life, and I had never seen or really even heard of the show Survivor. And
Hmm.
there are like 40 seasons, so I'm not watching them in order, but I just recently started watching the show. I think I would do terribly in like the physical challenges and everything, but something about it and like the strategy, like just to see how long I could possibly stay, I might pick that show. If not, I would probably pick like I'd love to go up on like Chopped or something. Some cooking channel would be my second choice. So kind of all over the place. Um,
Yeah, chopped is.
so good. Okay, second question. If you, oh yeah, B. Gruner said, "Who wants to be a millionaire?" That's a good one. Uh, if you were left on a deserted island with either your worst enemy or no one, which one would you choose and why?
Worst enemy for sure. Um, just from like hearing what solitary confinement does to people in prison, you're like that. You need someone. I feel like we'd work it out.
Yeah,
We'd have
totally.
time to go over how we got to that in the first place. work out our differences. If worst case, we just hang on other sides of the island from one another,
Yeah.
and then we like build a coconut like wall or something. But I think, yeah, you want you want some possibility of human interaction versus no possibility, I think.
Totally. Okay, last random beginning question. What is your favorite piece of art that you own?
Oh man, you mean besides filter?
Yeah, besides that. Thank you.
um, that's a great one. I have a nephew who made. Oh, this is when we do the screen sharing, right? Damn it! I don't even think I have a photo of it, but um, my nephew made. So my sister's an artist, and my nephew made this piece. So it's almost Jackson Pollock. I think he was
Mm.
like barely 3 at the time, and it's just like really balanced and colorful, and it's on the mantle, and it's like really kind of
Oh, so
kind of wows me.
is it a big piece?
No, no, it's like 8.5 by 11, but I framed
Oh,
it, and I love that one.
that's a good
I have,
choice.
yeah, you said just one. That's the first one that came to mind, but I have a lot of pieces that I really love, including yours.
Thanks. That's nice of you. Um, okay, sorry, I do have to read this one comment about the who would you if you'd bring a worst enemy. Someone said then if you ran out of food. Dot dot dot. Um, all right, getting to the actual meat of the chat and everything. I will do right after I do a super quick little chat
Yeah,
about my sponsor. As you guys know, last season I teamed up with Metacast, which is an awesome group that basically just connects content creators and companies that want to get out more information about their project and what they're doing. So this month, the sponsor is Avagache. I'm just going to put their website up on screen for a sec. So here's their website. Definitely go check them out and see what they're up to. They're creating NFTs and combining a lot of different DeFi things. Here's their Twitter. You can follow them there. And they're basically storing their avatar, these avatars and art on chain. And you can also earn while you collect with a DeFi sort of protocol they're using on the background. They did launch with Matic, so definitely check them out. Jump into their Discord, see what they're up to. And if you guys have any feedback, if you did check them out already, definitely DM me and let me know. But that is today's sponsor. Thanks, guys. Okay, perfect. Okay, so
yeah. I have one too.
you
Is it
do?
all right?
Did you say you have
See.
a Avagache?
Uh, sponsor.
Oh, you do. Oh, perfect. Let's hear it.
Uh, Savannah Orchards. Savannah Orchards brings you large, premium quality nuts roasted and glazed with sweet honey. Satisfy your sweet cravings while enjoying nutritious nuts. Our gourmet honey roasted nut mix has no artificial preservatives, flavors, or colors. Enjoy.
All right. Are you going to be eating some of those nuts on stream?
I'll keep it quiet, I think.
Okay. Um, yeah, you can send a link and we'll link out to those too. Um, awesome. So, first off, I guess the first thing I just want to talk about in a weird way, like how I got introduced to you and became a huge fan of yours and why your work means so much to me. And then I'd love to just find out more from you and just give everyone checking this stream out just more insight to why you do what you do. But when I first got into crypto art and creating art when I was learning about Bitcoin, it, you were like the person to look up to and still are, and have created such an amazing path for yourself within the space, but you do it in such a elegant way that is really hard for anyone to achieve, that I think you have been able to keep the focus on your main mission and like on this bigger picture of like actual like change, and you just do it so well through art. And we all know that, like, at least me personally, I connect so much with visuals and everything you put out, like from your artwork but then also to the way that you market things, your videos, meeting you in person at conferences, like literally everything. I'm just like always blown away by everything you do. So I'm excited to just get the chance to like sit down and talk to you about what drives you and what inspires you and everything. So I'm super excited to have you on today. And I guess the first question I'll ask is about your name, because I know when you first told me how to pronounce how it was originally supposed to be pronounced, I don't know if a lot of people know that. So do you want to talk about how you got your name?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I just want to say thank you. That was sweet of you, Josie. And it's very much mutual respect. I think you have a lot of your artwork's amazing, and there's just like a amazing polish to everything that you do too. Like even just the little promo thing that you sent out for Twitter, like you used the color mask for this one that like matched well with my logos, and everything's very well done.
Thank
So
you.
big fan as well. And yeah, so the name, if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't, because no one can spell it, no one can pronounce it. It's a combination of cryptography and graffiti. And yeah, so I started out by doing some stuff, some street art where like the first ones where I would just put up some private keys and then see if people would take Bitcoin. I did like some street art where there was public keys and tried to get people to send me Bitcoin. And so it was around the idea of cryptocurrencies, and cryptography is a big part of that. So yeah, so it's 5 syllables. It doesn't roll off the tongue, and you're not alone. I'll put it that way.
I was thinking earlier because I knew I'd ask you about the name, because I remember you telling me cryptograffiti was maybe the initial like way to pronounce it, and I was thinking in my head, well, then he should have spelled it with a ph, because then maybe people would have like, because immediately when I look at the word, you see crypto and you see graffiti, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean, versus like cryptograffiti, but it does look so much better with two F's. So I don't know. Have you come to terms, and do you like cryptograffiti now, or do you still like wince and wish people pronounce it cryptograffiti?
So when I just got booted off Twitter, I was thinking of like if I had to get a different name, like this is the time, right? And so reached out to the guy that owns CG, and I was like, please God, just sell me this thing. And never heard back. But
Okay.
we're just rolling with it.
That would have been pretty crazy. I like cryptograffiti though, because it's just like I've known you as that for so long, but that would be pretty badass to have just CG too. So either way. Um, Awesome. So you were saying that you initially were putting up private keys and everything. I would love to like go before that and just ask if you'd want to chat about what you were doing before you found Bitcoin, and then what that like pivotal moment for you was once you found Bitcoin, and how it changed sort of what you wanted to do.
Yeah. So I've talked recently about how there's really like two approaches to this. There's like how you were introduced to Bitcoin, and then there's also like what life experiences led you to be open to the idea of it,
Mm.
because we're all products of our environment, right? And only recently I started talking about an incident that happened in college that I think really influenced me. And then later on in life, there was this startup that I was working on, which is a more direct line into it. But just in general, like going way back, like I have auditory processing issues. Like I've taken all the different meds for it, and I think it may have bred early on like uh, not resentment, but like when teachers are telling you need to do things a certain way and it just plain doesn't come naturally to you, you sort of build up like a resistance and questioning authority, because I think we're now seeing that not everyone learns the right way, and 10 years in the future, we're going to see that will be completely different and things will be more specialized. And yeah, so I later on, I had this thing happen in college where it was like this drug related incident where someone wanted to steal some drugs that they thought like that were in my roommate in my suite area. And it was like this violent thing that happened where this person
Mm.
attacked us to try and get these things. And then when the police got involved afterward, there was civil asset forfeiture. So they just straight took the money, and then this case ended up like getting dropped, and they just didn't give the money back. And so you have this thing that was like in hindsight now with the more lax drug laws, it was like totally draconian. And another thing
Yeah.
that 10 years from now we're going to look back and be like, what the hell? Like these people were in jail for weed. Like what the heck were people doing? Um, so and that, we all, like me and my friends all knew that at the time. It's like, this is ridiculous. But then also when you're supposed to be looking to the police to serve and protect, and then that just plain not happening very clearly right in front of me, that led me to look at things in a different light. And then living in San Francisco, um, another thing that really contributed to it, I've been in the area for 16 years or so now, and just seeing the decline and what happens when the wealth gap really like takes a hold. It's kind of under a microscope, and like all the artists have left, and there's streets lined with tents where billionaires live, and it seems indicative of what's unfolding on a grander scale across the world, but just kind of going parabolic in San Francisco. And so a lot of these things contributed to me being open to Bitcoin. When I heard about it, I was working, when you're in San Francisco, you do a startup, like it or not, it's like a requirement when you move to the city. And so I was doing one, and the developer that I was working with wanted to be paid in Bitcoin. And so that's when I first heard about it. I didn't know how to pay him in it, and I looked up how to do it, couldn't figure it out. But then it was one of these things where you just start hearing about it everywhere, and especially in San Francisco. So like the area where I lived was like right in the middle of like Airbnb literally started on my street, and
Wow.
Twitter, and all like it's like all within a couple blocks. And so yeah, it would just come up like in cafes, and you would hear it. And I was like reading Wired at the time. And so I came across an article there, and then some of the FUD about Silk Road came up, and I remember thinking like, wait a minute, they're demonizing this thing. And if I would have loved to have it in high school when we were going to raves and having to take these drugs where this Molly that looked like an everything bagel, because it was like so suspect. So it seemed like a good idea to me. And then I was like seeing what the press, the mainstream media was saying instead, and thinking that's not right. And so I started hearing and seeing more about it, and then I came across Hashcash, which is Adam Back's project that was focused on trying to alleviate email spam and DDoS attacks through what with Bitcoin would be micropayments. So that was the article that I came across, was how we can apply some of the same principles to Bitcoin and using micropayments. And that to me was like this crazy, like definitely rabbit hole moment. Like it did feel like I was like actually falling. It was really this intense thing, because I felt like I could finally belong. Because the other concept with Bitcoin, like I loved how it was supposed to just completely change up what's going on with banking, and end this totally awful system that we have going that's holding us back. But for me, I didn't know how I would fit in, because I wasn't good at econ in school, and politics, and a lot of different subject matter. I didn't program, and so I wanted a way to fit in. And then this was sorry, I turn that on vibrate. This was a way for me to bring creativity to it, and it wasn't really necessarily going to be art yet, but it was like, okay, there's ideas happening here that I didn't think were a thing that could be applied here. And then all like micropayments opened up all these different possibilities, and it just really got the wheels turning. And so then I thought, okay, like how should I fit in if I were to try and do something? And then it just seemed to make sense that art would be it, because I did art on the side. And and so I went from there. I started doing some experiments and stuff that were like going to be gifts for that developer. and yeah, and then I started doing the street art later after that, and it sort of snowballed.
I was just gonna say, do you still know that developer? Do you still keep in contact?
Yeah, like we're not close. I don't think he's in Bitcoin. I think that might be part of it. But
Sorry, you
I'll
cut out
talk
a
to him
little
every
bit.
like, 6 months or so.
You said you don't think he's in Bitcoin anymore?
No, I think it's a little bit of a sore subject
Got it. Got it. Got it.
because I'll talk to him about it, and um, you
Uh,
go.
oh, yeah, okay. um, Also, a couple other things that you said that I want to dive a little deeper on, but you mentioned you were doing art on the side already, and you've also just earlier said that your sister and even your nephew do art as well. So you said nephew, right? Or was it niece? I think you said nephew.
Yeah, nephew.
Okay, awesome. So do you come from a family that is artistic? Is that where you started like having the interest in doing art on the side and everything?
Yeah, and my mom's a docent, and my sister's an amazing artist, um, and my brother's creative too, and so I think it's just one of these things that's in the family.
Yeah.
So I would do stuff like just more out of necessity, like if I moved somewhere and there was just like bare walls, and then if I had some idea that I thought was like clever or something, then I would do it. Like if I had a twist on a coffee table or something, but I needed it, right? Like I needed like some
Mm.
furniture or something. It was more that than like really like setting aside the time to do it, um, for fun. It was more like functional.
Yeah. Did you say the word docent? I don't know what that means.
Art docent.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, so she teaches about the works in the Bay Area at a couple of museums, and so she'll lead tours and study up on a particular artist or a period, and then take people around a museum
Oh, cool.
and tell them about the works, and yeah, she's great at it. She's really knowledgeable in art history and the best.
Oh yeah, I bet you would have to be. That's a crazy. I never knew that was that term. So thank you for teaching me a new word. I should say that to all my guests. You have to teach me a
Yeah.
new word every stream. Um, yeah, yeah. Tom said like a museum docent. Yeah, I guess so, but I just wasn't familiar with it. So thanks. But that's so interesting that your family is all so creative as well, and then it almost seems like in some way you're creative, but like you said, like you were like creating stuff as out of necessity, but obviously it was still some sort of passion, or else you would have just like purchased a coffee table instead of like making a cool one. So that's pretty cool that you kind of stuck with it and just kept doing small things here and there. Um, so when you were creating art in the beginning, I guess your path of creating Bitcoin art, and when you're just doing like private keys or public keys or whatever in the beginning, and then how and where did it transition, and where would you say you are now? Because I feel like you obviously do a lot of really public experiences with your art, but then at the same time, even your physical pieces that people can collect, you take some of the outside elements and you bring them into your art, which I love so much. Like, I'll never forget when I saw the video of you going to all these banks and like taking all the ballpoint pens, like with the like metal chains on them, like from all these banks, and like creating a crazy piece with it. And that story is just like always happens with all of your pieces. There's always you're bringing the outside elements to your work. So I guess I'm just curious, like, were you always like that? Do you think your art has evolved since you've started creating Bitcoin art? Just sort of like, what was that path?
Yeah. Um, like kind of glossed over I sort of focused on like how I would fit in, but not like why I feel like I want to or need to fit in. And I think it's just really important that we have a lot of different variety in the types of people that are involved, especially like really early on, even especially now, with Bitcoin, because we want all different people to partake, and we don't want it to seem like it's just like early on, just cypherpunky, like programmery type who don't leave the house. And now we're, the pushback is that it's like more of these Lambros was a term I saw today. So like we need everybody in there, including artists. And there's something about artists where it sets people at ease a bit.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it's indicative of a thriving culture, right? Like if you go to a city um, and there's public art, it kind of means that, okay, they have the budget for this, the city's probably doing okay, right? And same thing with the artists. If there's artists that are supported enough to be able to get by for this uh, with this subject matter, then it might mean that there's support there, and then, okay, maybe I should look into it more. So it kind of works on a subconscious level. But I think it's really important. Like I'm worried about privacy issues. I'm worried about inflation. I'm worried about the wealth gap, and that for me is the biggie. Like Bitcoin is the focus for me because it's really important, I think, in this day and age with everything that's going on. And um, yeah, so like we need a way to have people understand it easily, and art kind of gets to that because a picture says 1,000 words. And then the reason why I went to the banking materials that you brought up is because I wanted like the most direct through line to that. Like how can at a glance people see like what this is about, because it's complex subject matter, right? And so if very quickly they can like wait a minute, that's made out of like cut up credit cards, and then it's a bank logo but it's different. Like anything that's like kind of rooted in what they already know, but like it's also sort of personal for me. Like I don't want like it's like throwing it back in these banks' faces who have screwed up society, right? And it's like I want to use these tools that they've put out there to oppress people and like shove it back in their face and teach about this new movement that's going to put them under. And it's yeah. So I want to have it be like really direct and simplistic, but on the other hand, b it's like kind of like an fu, like
Yeah.
there is something interesting with it where like these things are going to be going away, and so they represent scarcity, even though like the banking and the dollar can be printed at will. But I don't know, it's kind of interesting how they're going to be rare items as we go cashless, to then teach about this new item that is scarce, which is Bitcoin.
That is really interesting to think about. And I think what you're saying, I mean, your every piece of your art hits that nail on the head. Like it's direct, you automatically see what it's made of. But it still like does a beautiful job of having these like small nuances where you're just like deeply thinking about each layer of the piece and like what each layer means and why it's put together in that way. So I think it's quite cool how not only are you just using the materials, but you're creating this bigger message with the materials, in so many different ways. Like I'm thinking of a lot of your works, but obviously like the Black Swan one you did, the like super tiny one, which was so cool. There's so many doing it on the what are those called? The security boxes. What is the,
Yeah,
what am I thinking of? That's what it's
deposit
called,
box.
right? Deposit boxes. Thank you. But like all of these really cool things, but it's like there's so many more layers once you're putting all the materials together, but then putting them together in a thoughtful way. I mean, every single one of your pieces does that. So I think you definitely get that across. Um, Martin Lucas just asked, did you face repercussions from banks, or did you ever get caught? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I've had like a C&D like really early on when I was doing the bank logos, um, where they just one bank like said, don't do this with our logo. But I sort of just took the stance of like, if they want, it would be like a Streisand effect thing. Like if
Yeah.
they came after just this individual and then just went with that, and then there hasn't been much. So yeah, knock
That's
on
good.
wood.
Yeah, I'll knock for you too.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, no, that's good to know. Do you ever get nervous when you're out taking a video of the public art that you do? Do you ever get nervous when you're doing that stuff, or is it kind of like a rush?
Yeah, it's both, but I've found that just in general, people don't care. Like
Yeah.
they're not paid enough to care, right? Like they I think they probably feel guilty for working with these banks in the first place. And so I had one time where like some guy saw what I was doing and it was just like he just sort of gave me a little nod. Um yeah. So I think it's bullish.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. Um, I would love to know a little bit. I mean, I have a million questions, but I would love to know a little bit for you. Like, I think you're really amazing at a lot of things, but one thing that I especially think that you're good at compared to myself and other people is packaging a whole story into like almost like a little mini production. I feel like you do for each piece. How did like were you always good with filming? Like how does that come about for you for each piece? Do you decide to do those things from when you're initially starting the piece that you're gonna like videotape the whole thing, like and do time lapses or like these different like shots of the progress? Like how do you decide to do that? And have you always done that with your stuff?
I think I might be. I think there's other artists in the space that are a lot better than me at certain things like painting and other like more like where they focus specifically on a medium. Or I think I have a decent grasp on what might resonate with people and sort of like for lack of a better term, like I have a bunch of these ideas, and so I think I'm kind of like an idea guy that has a good eye, and so there's a lot like because the work I do is like activism based. There's a lot of crossover with like marketing and advertising, and I'm just fascinated by why people take to certain ideas, the psychology behind things that resonate with people, and other things that don't, and why they might or might not. And so that lends itself well to trying to like spread a movement, right?
Yeah.
Um, so for a concept, and especially with like the activism angle, it's really just like how do I get more people involved with this, and it means putting out less work and more involved work that isn't keeping with a theme or like a period that artists often have. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, that's more interesting. Um, and yeah, so I just want in general the goal is to try and teach about this thing, right? And so I may start with like a seed of an idea, but then from there it's like, oh, well, maybe if we do this with it, and then there's this like live component. I don't know. I'm like just making stuff up here, but if there's different dimensions to it, then that might add to the network effect, which would then mean more people taking a look at it, and then it growing bigger from there. So I try to approach it more of like make it as simple as possible, but also like interesting so that when people do look at it, they might want to explore further um, and then hopefully see what it's all about.
Yeah, like simple with a big effect. I think you do that really well. Um, and yeah, no, I'm a big fan of the way you release everything. And talking about the activism and everything, do you have a piece? I guess as a two-part question. Do you have a piece that or that you created that was like especially powerful for you, like in the creating process? And then do you also have a piece that you personally saw did the most impact for other people through the piece? I'm thinking of one specifically in my head, but I want to see what your answer is.
um, I did this project down at the Venezuelan border that was meant to show that Bitcoin can overcome capital controls like through the art itself. And so it was kind of convoluted, but essentially what happened was there was this mural that I made that was 1,000 different Bolivar notes that depicted Maduro. Um, and the idea was that people online can see a digital version of the mural and click on one of these notes, send some Bitcoin, and then that donation would immediately be given out in person at this event that we were holding at the border. And then when it was distributed, the person who received it would then take that bolivar off the wall. And essentially the idea was that together we can take down Maduro through this new form of currency that can't be used to control the people. So yeah, that was one that was close to 2 years ago, and I'm happy that we're going to have some announcements soon about that, because the money that we raised was going toward the building of a humanitarian center to help out refugees in the area, and then also provide education about Bitcoin. And yeah, so that one I think I really liked, because it meant involving other people and getting, I needed help. Like, in order to pull it off, I worked with Cryptograffiti, which was this awesome outfit that does Bitcoin adoption with merchants, and so they make it so they can accept it. And this is an area where the currency is hyperinflated, and so Bitcoin really can make a difference there. It really is an education thing, though. There's still a long way to go, and so I worked with people to hold this event, and it ended up, like, it was really, really stressful, but it ended up going well, and we were surprised that we pulled it off. And it was a lot of moving parts, but I think that would be the one.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking too. Not to cut you off, sorry, but I remember watching the Twitter feed and just seeing like each piece being pulled down and like everything coming in, and it was even powerful to watch online. It was crazy, and then also like seeing you get stopped on your way home was pretty crazy too. Seeing that tweet, I was like, no way. With that happening, but that was a beautifully done for sure.
Thank you. I really dig your work too that you did.
Thank you. And was that one okay? So was that the example for both of them? The one that you saw for other people was the most powerful, but then also the most powerful for you, or do you have a different one that was the most powerful for you?
Oh, now when you say other people, you mean like other people that are seeing the work for the first time, or like other people like that might be like online that like see Bitcoin art?
I guess either way, one that you were able to like directly see an impact from the piece, if that makes sense. Which I was assuming that's the Venezuelan one, but maybe that one was. Maybe it's the same. Maybe it's the same answer, or maybe my question is confusing. Sorry.
No, no.
Probably the latter.
I'll go. I'll go with that one. We'll say it's both.
Okay. Okay. Um. Oh yeah. Easy said yes. We need more merchants accepting crypto. That is true. On that note, I would love to ask you. I mean, this is kind of a broad question, but from the beginning of when you first got interested in Bitcoin and the whole movement to where we are today, I guess, was this expected for you? Do you feel like it's moving faster or slower, or and what do you feel like are the biggest differences in the community or the way that Bitcoin is like being received or perceived?
Yeah, good question. So early on, it was all about payments, and like remittance payments to other countries was it. It was like a big talking point for why it would be beneficial, and so it definitely the narrative has shifted. They're equally important, and I hope that we'll continue to grow with like the Lightning Network and other options to be able to have both be prevalent, right? So I think the store of value is huge, and it's that in and of itself is like a wealth of inspiration for the art and why Bitcoin is important. But there has been a shift in what people talk about why it's needed. Um, and then just in general, like the type of people that are involved naturally have changed too, and I think that's a good thing. You know, we've got um, it seems like pretty much the majority of people in the U.S. are quasi familiar with it, or at least have heard it in passing, right? And so with that, you get all different types of people involved, and you get some people that really just care about the price, and you get others that might care about it for other reasons. And I think that's all good. You know, I think that's the sign of a healthy community. Like if it was just hardcore blank people, then it means that you're not reaching everyone.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot of people involved. I think that's a sign that it's thriving. And man, just in the past week, like I think we're reaching this pivotal moment where the eyes are starting to open up about um, the traditional systems, and we're going to get some some eyes opening even wider, and realizations about how there are alternatives that are out there, and a lot more interest.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I mean, when you're saying this past week, I'm assuming that you're talking about everything going on, GameStop and Wall Street bets and everything like that. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, yeah. I think we're we're friends. The Wall Street bets people and the Bitcoiners are friendly, even if they don't necessarily know it yet
Yeah.
or acknowledge it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the type of censorship and the, I mean, the hypocrisy of, there are so many things, but reading all of these trades for retail investors being halted and stopped, and thinking about, you know, governments saying who can buy what, based on like if they deem you um, a accredited investor and all of that. And then even if you are, or all this stuff, they still have ways to stop down or stop like what you're doing and stop you from making money.
Yeah.
So it's crazy the stuff that's been going on this week around that, for sure. Um, so sorry, someone just, I want to make sure I'm not missing a question. Oh yeah, Martin Lucas said even my parents brought up the Bitcoin store value question recently. The fear of inflation is reaching all generations. Absolutely. And I mean that's definitely when we have people in our lives around us like asking us questions. Like that's it's crazy because it's what people probably wouldn't be asking the questions unless these big things were going on within our world and our economy. But I guess that's in some way a good thing, a good like point to start educating people on. Um, yeah, and on Brookhawk just asked, is there a map or list of BTC billboard locations? I'd love to talk about that since that's something that you've recently put out, that is super exciting and that everyone can sort of partake in and experience some of your work. Would you like to talk about what the whole concept of the billboards and just the United Nodes of Bitcoin Dollar is all about?
Yeah, yeah, and there is a map. Should chat it to you here.
I can link
Um,
it. I have it.
oh, cool. And just to follow up on what you were saying earlier, it just seems like more obvious about why this is needed, and it's just apparent in society now. Like we have areas where you can't turn off the freeway where you don't see tents everywhere.
Yeah.
And someone in response to one of the billboards said like they went to go get a large fry at McDonald's and it was over $4. So everyone is seeing like what's happening and how this is panning out. It doesn't mean uh, there needing to be a hard sell about why mining and or why I don't know anything related to Bitcoin. It's like it's happening in front of them, and if they get just some of the basics about the differences in capped money versus uncapped money, it seems like a much easier sell with everything that's going on around us. The the billboard project was I just wanted to do something for the back of the art that I did that you helped me do the amazing AR with, because the front proved to be a really great teaching tool. And I learned from having an exhibit in late 2015. I don't know. I made it in late 2015, and then in late 2016 was the exhibit. Um, and then it was also at this other exhibit. Anyway, I'm rambling. The people just gravitated toward the the image of the dollar, and I think it was because they either like money or they were familiar with it. And so I had this exhibit on Market Street in San Francisco, and that was the piece that they just naturally went up to.
Mm.
um, and so going back to what we talked about earlier with artists being maybe more approachable, they would sort of stand near it, and then eventually I would go up to them, and then I could see their posture change uh, about Bitcoin, and okay, here I can now finally talk about this with someone because I have these questions that I've been meaning to ask, and maybe I didn't want to with someone else. And so it was a big moment for me, and I talked to a lot of people over those several months because it was in this really popular area of San Francisco. Um, the idea of anchoring the art in something that they already knew was familiar with me, and it went back to this thing I mentioned with wanting to uh, somehow play to people's ability of understanding it with that they already know, like with the bank logos and stuff. So catch their attention, and then they see that it's a little bit different, and then once you have their attention, talk about it, right? Um, and yeah, so I did the back of the dollar more recently, and I wanted to keep educating through it and talking about Bitcoin, and so just go bigger with it. It's several years on, and how can I make it a bigger thing? And it sort of morphed from this idea of doing just a big street art version here in San Francisco, near the Mint or um, somewhere, and then okay, well maybe do it in DC near the Federal Reserve, and then all right, well there's 12 of them, and we could do all these different messages and have it just be even bigger. um, and so yeah, it was a lot of work and a lot of plate spinning, and in general though the goal was to try and get people to learn about what's going on with inflation through this photo thread of photos of the billboards. And so it was uh, some of the billboards got delayed a bit and kind of threw it off, but they're now all out except for one, which is coming out soon. But anyway, yeah, it was this idea of teaching about what's going on with inflation and the wealth gap in areas where they might not hear about it more naturally, like in San Francisco. And so the billboards are in working class areas of these different 12 cities where there are Federal Reserve banks. And then if they come to the handle that's on the billboards, then they'll read through photos of the billboards and the messages about what's going on um, with Bitcoin, and then why it might be a better alternative to this system that the Fed has in place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such a cool initiative, and the way that you made a decision to make it more, spread all over the country versus just in San Francisco was really cool. I got a chance to visit the billboard in Chicago, and it was really cool to be able to just walk up to it and take pictures and everything next to, a road on one side and then houses on the other. So it was nice that it was placed somewhere that it gets foot traffic to, which is really cool.
Awesome.
So I thought that was just so cool to see in person. And when you think of billboards, I mean, you just think of I don't know, alcohol or TV shows or these big, huge brands. You don't often see a billboard with something so powerful, or a piece of artwork, but that has so much meaning on it. So those are just so cool, seeing how you were able to capture the different phrases in different cities around the U.S. So if you guys do live close to those, definitely check them out, and also check them out on Twitter as well. You photographed all of them that are up, and have them up to read through too. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Uh,
was a
oh, go
big
ahead.
part of it too. Just doing something that's different with typically with these billboards. It's just telling you to buy stuff that you might not need, and really relates to this debt-based society that we live in. And so sort of hacking that and flipping it on its head and getting people to think about this new era, um, that is very different and scarcity based, and might have you think twice, like it has for me. Like I do think twice before spending money on things frivolously, because hey, it might mean that uh, whatever I bought wasn't worth it a few years down the road. So that was a big part of it, was sort of flipping it on its head and getting people to think that there might be a different way.
Yeah, and especially as you were saying earlier, that like most or a good amount of people in the US at least know, if you say the word Bitcoin, they've at least heard of it somewhere. So I feel like also when you're seeing something for the second time, like if you're seeing the word Bitcoin or seeing something for the second time and you've like heard about it or seen it before, it makes you more likely to like go research and see what it actually is. Because I remember when I was in college and I was first learning about Bitcoin, like I'd heard it before. I was like, oh yeah, I've heard it. But then when we had a professor come to talk about it, I was like, oh wait, I've heard that before. Okay, now let me take a listen and like see what they're talking about since I've already heard it before. So I feel like with the billboard, it almost like in some ways will hopefully, I'm sure it probably has that effect for people. Oh, I've seen that. I've heard that recently. Like, let me see what that's all about. So it's definitely a cool educational tool, that is like up for anyone who's walking past to view it.
Can we just plug the AR real quick? Because what you did was amazing, Josie. We worked
Thanks.
together, guys, to do this AR that even like more directly teaches, highlights some of the things that are on the artwork, and points them out, and then adds another line about why it's on the artwork specifically. And yeah, Josie's awesome. She made some really cool um, additions to the art itself, and so together they tell a deeper story. And it seems like people are really digging it. There was someone who posted it, Hoddleberry, the other day. He went to the Philadelphia one, and it's more of, it's less for people that come across it in person, but it's still
Yeah.
awesome. And it kind of speaks also to this thing of like, if we can get more people online, because that was another component to this too. There's the foot traffic, and then there's the people seeing it and spreading it online too.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really fun to create with you and just dive into the deeper meaning behind everything on the dollar and kind of give it that like simple explanation as you look through it. And you guys can definitely check out. I mean, if you see the picture of the dollar online, you guys know you can just scan the AR even from your phone and see it right in front of you on your computer. So all of you guys can do that as well. Um, Brookhawk said the NYC billboard is right near Pizza Barn in Yonkers, kind of famous pizzeria. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. We get yourself a slice of pizza once you go visit it. I got myself some tacos in Pilsen right after I visited the one in Chicago, and they were amazing. So support your restaurants. Um, that's awesome. So I would love to know if you have anything that I mean, I know you're probably not going to want to share anything that you are working on because I feel like you're so mysterious. But do you have anything that you're working on that you do want to talk about? Obviously, you have the billboards running right now. Is there anything else that you kind of have in the pipeline or going to launch soon that you want people to look out for? Or in general, um, do you just kind of like drop it as it comes and we see where it goes?
Um, yeah, I've got like a lot of things going simultaneously, which might be like holding the completion of them back, because I'm sort of like inching forward with a bunch of them. But I'm excited about them. One of them relates to a new um, rev stream for artists and musicians with Lightning. Um, and so I've got a project that's focused on that, which will hopefully be coming out in like mid-March.
Okay.
Um, and so it involves something that I'm passionate about, which is house music, and it can apply to other things too. But I'm going to demo it with that, um,
Cool.
which started in Chicago, hometown.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I got that going. I've got a couple other physical pieces. I've got this update or some stuff that we're doing for the humanitarian center in Cucuta. Um, that'll be in just a couple of maybe 4 weeks or so. Um, and then some stuff that should be happening on the, I don't know if this is like a segue or something if you're talking NFTs, but
I
trying
was
to
gonna
do
ask
some
that
more
next,
NFT
so
related. Yeah, trying to do some more that is like more Bitcoin centric NFT stuff. And it's I'm all about the NFT movement. I think it's amazing. I love that artists are getting paid and there's so much creativity that's happening with it. I haven't focused on it partly just because I just do like the physical work, right? And it's like a time thing, but also I'm so hyper focused on Bitcoin that I don't know if it makes the most sense to then sell it for different cryptocurrency, and
totally.
um, it it's yeah. So I hope that this will. I think it's one of these things where um, I want artists to do work related to Bitcoin, not as opposed to something else, but because it helps Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's important. And so I'm trying to help build within Bitcoin, not at the expense of anything else, just because I think that we need it. We need creatives to help push it forward because it's important. And so, yeah, so I've got something in the works there, and that might be like around the same time frame too, like maybe early March or so. Um, yeah, so a
That's
lot
super
going on.
exciting. That's super exciting. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about like if you have done NFTs in the past in your experience, and then also, I mean, I have a lot of questions about some things coming up, and I'm excited to just hear the word NFTs and Bitcoin together, because obviously I create Bitcoin art as well, and uh, a lot. I haven't. I've saved some of my pieces and haven't tokenized them on the Ethereum blockchain, but I definitely have plenty of Bitcoin art tokenized there.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting and exciting. Um, did you do NFTs before, back in the day, before all of this recent Ethereum hype craze for NFTs?
Yeah. So I didn't do the Pepes. I love the Pepes, but for me, like making my work like frog themed, this wasn't too appealing. And I'd love if they had a resurgence where there was like kind of like a platform with both, right? So like it brought the vintage Pepes more to the forefront, and then also new art on Counterparty. But it seems like there's not a ton of momentum happening there.
Yeah.
But I did a handful of projects early on, starting in 2017 with ERC20 stuff with Curio cards, and then a couple other projects too. And there was a Rare Art Labs one, and then also one that doesn't get talked about much because it sort of fizzled quickly was a Crypto All Stars. Um, and so, yeah, when we started the conversation, I mentioned that we're sort of like products of our environment, and I had
Yeah.
um, issues with the startup that I was working on with it, it involved a Facebook app. And then it was right when Facebook was launching their developer platform, and it just didn't go well because it was brand
Mm.
new. And so this idea of trusted third parties being security holes like really stuck with me. And like I think about it a lot. Um, Even just today, like I was trying to explore doing something with that swan, that tiny swan artwork. And then the guy who did the prints for me no longer works there. And I was like, oh, you remember what the paper is? Um, um, and yeah, so he didn't know. And so it's like, and then it made me think, oh, Josie does her own prints. This is why you can't trust other people for certain things. And yeah, so that startup that didn't do too well, my startup, um, because of this Facebook app, made me just gun shy about working with other platforms because stuff like tends to go wrong, especially when it's
Right.
early, right? And so that really happened with a lot of the early NFT stuff for me. And so it's probably why I like part of the reason why I haven't delved much more into it. Kind of wanted to just see the space evolve more, and I'm stoked to see like it's just amazing. Like super rare guys are so badass, and there's so much cool stuff going on. Um, so it's not that I'm like, oh, because it's not Bitcoin, I don't want to do it. But it's also like I kind of got burned by some issues that happened early with some of the other projects, and then it was just like, well, I've got other things I need to focus on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's amazing. I love how how everything's evolving, and it's just happening so fast.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. I mean, I've even told other artists as well, and for myself, I try to be really careful with where I tokenize and what decisions I'm making, because you look at things like, even for the people now that are listening that got into NFT art more recently than, Pepe's and Counterparty and all of that, like myself, like thinking of additional app, and like people were minting stuff there because you just take a picture of it and like it's an NFT now, and like all this stuff, and then the app went down and a ton of people lost all their stuff there, and like you just think about that, and you have to make a smart decision for your brand, and how long you want your story to live on for those things, and
Yeah.
the value obviously goes away if the company goes down, so you definitely have to make the right decision for you. So I totally get that. I'm excited to hear that you are still looking at NFTs and not, taking slow steps, but it sounds like you're doing something pretty epic in the background, involving BTC. So I'm excited about that for sure. Um, Easy. Oh, cool. Easy said you have some BTC sketch scenes. That's awesome. Would love to see those. Oh yeah. Easy also said was excited for the Bitcoin 2020 conference, but COVID happened. Yeah, that was a fun one, Bitcoin 2019, when we were there, and I'm sure we'll have another one soon once everyone can. Awesome. If you guys have any, oh, did I miss a? Oh yeah, so Martin Lucas, I think you were asking if what Cryptograffiti was just talking about, the new upcoming NFTs. He was just confirming it didn't have to do with Counterparty, correct?
No, no, but
Okay.
I would love there there to be more options. Like I'm kind of in the boat of the more the merrier, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So um, there's a handful of things that are in the works, but it's just slower going. It seems like it's almost hard mode with Bitcoin because it's very grassroots. You know, there wasn't like an ICO or anything that can just be like, here, take a bunch of money.
Yeah.
It's it's people that are tending to do it on the side, and but that looks like it's shifting a little bit because we've seen the success of projects that are on Ethereum, and so it's like it's been proven that people want this, right? And so some people that might have a little bit more money to throw at more Bitcoin centric type stuff, it seems like it's happening now, and
Yeah.
yeah, I would love for counterparty guys to get funded, and then there to just be options in general. I want everything to rise.
Martin Lucas said, yeah, which protocol? I think for the one that you're working with now, and I think it nothing has been released on for that yet. Correct?
I don't think so. It's probably I should probably keep it close to the vest, but
Yeah.
there's only so many options.
Yeah. um, awesome. If you guys have more questions in the chat, definitely pop them in. I am going to start asking some of the closing questions, but before that, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that I missed or glazed over while we were chatting?
Hmm. Did my plug. Um, no, I just love that you're doing this. Like it's we're gonna look back on this and it's gonna be like the show of record, Josie. You
That's
know?
nice of you. I don't know. I like doing it. I love doing it, and that's why I've kept doing it for this long already. But it's also like, I don't know. I hope so. I think people really enjoy watching it. So I appreciate you saying that. That means a lot.
Yeah. I mean, imagine 20 years from now, your kids are they're flying Teslas, watching the Beeple
Yeah.
episode. Or wearing the silver unitards or something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be crazy. It's so funny because I mean, before this, I really never put my face on the internet. Like, I never had social media or anything growing up. So this was like, I was like so nervous to do it, but I'm really glad I did it because I mean, I haven't gone back to watch episodes because I remember them pretty well. But I haven't gone back to watch episodes because I probably cringe at myself. But it is nice to have like it permanently there and just create the relationships with all of these artists, not only for myself, but like connecting the human aspect of the artist to everyone else that experiences their work because I
Yeah.
think it gives everyone such a different perspective on what they do and why they do it. And even for myself, looking at artists' work and after I've had them on the show, I like think about it in a different way. So
Mm,
I love doing it.
amazing.
Awesome. Okay, let me ask some of these closing questions. Also, normally my questions, these I feel like I might have to switch them up. We'll see. I'm using you as like the guinea pig because maybe they're kind of weird. I feel like the other two seasons they were shorter answers but more questions and maybe a little bit less weird. But I have three to close.
Mhm.
What is your favorite item that you bought? I would say this year, but this year just started, so I guess the past year.
Ooh, that's a good one. God, besides Bitcoin, let me see.
Yeah. If you need a second to think, I can share mine because I'll do a plug for
Yes.
them. Okay, so I know this sounds crazy, but I never ever like drink enough water, and I bought this like huge water bottle. And I'm serious, it's the best thing I bought all year. I think it was like $12 or something, and it forces me to drink because it has. Well, today I kind of messed up because I stayed up all night, but it has like times that it tells you like by 7 a.m., by 9 a.m., by blah 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 a.m. That's what you should have drank. That's how much you should have drank by that time, and it has your full amount of water for the day. So for someone who it's like hard for me to like drink water throughout the day, I just never remember. I love that.
Yep.
That's definitely my favorite $12 purchase of the year.
I'm pretty sure you have to like bench 400 pounds at a Gold's Gym in order to carry one of those around.
No, it's not. I think it's like a half a.
No,
It's
that's just
two
what all
point
the
five.
swole dudes, all the swole gym
Do they
bros.
all have one of these?
Yeah,
See,
it's
I wouldn't
like
know because I don't go to the gym. So.
um shit. I don't know. I just texted my SO. I was like, quick, tell us what the best thing that we purchased this last. Can I say Savannah Orchard's honey roasted nut mix?
Yeah, if that's the
No,
best thing.
she says a Peloton.
Oh, do you
Um,
guys both use it? Do you have your own?
I've done it 3 times,
Okay.
and Cody Rigsby, there's this one instructor who's amazing. He's
Oh,
like,
really?
oh yeah, uh, he's like very he's very uninhibited, which is like it just showed like within it was like name that tune within like 2 syllables, like, oh, Peloton does not care whatsoever what this guy does because he's swearing, he's the man. So he motivated me. I did my last ride, and there's even a Bitcoin Peloton group.
No way.
Yeah, there's a hashtag in there. There's
What?
people. So
That
there's
sounds so
probably
cultish. No, just kidding.
yeah.
A
It's like
cult within a
there's
cult.
an NFT one.
Oh God. Um, that's crazy. I hear people talk about the Peloton. And it's funny because since I am not kidding when I say I never work out, which is bad, and the quarantine hasn't helped that at all. But my significant other was like, "What if we got?" He was like, "What if we got a Peloton? Like, do you think that you would like use it?" And I was like, "No, don't even think about it," because I know he wouldn't use it. I'm like, "No, not using it." But that's cool that you like it, and that's your guys' best purchase because I've heard great things about it. Um, okay, what would be. Actually, no, I'll save that one for last. Okay, if you could instantly become an expert at something, what would it be?
Wow. Afterlife. This is deep. Uh,
Afterlife.
yeah, like what happens?
No, no. Did I? I said if you could, maybe you misheard me. What do you think I said?
If I could become an expert at something, I would want to know like what happens beyond when we leave.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I was like, what? I thought you meant I asked something about afterlife. Oh, okay. So you would, I guess, becoming an expert on that, like, do experts actually know for sure what happens in afterlife? You wouldn't actually know unless you think that experts do know.
Yeah, that's a good point. You got me there. Um, how about um, language? I would love to like I know enough Spanish to get by, but nothing crazy. I would love to be a polyglot, travel the
Yeah,
world once all this is done, and talk to anyone about anything.
that would be a good one. I morphed this question from last season, which is basically this same question, like, what's one skill you wish you had? But I think that that is a good answer, and I've heard it said, I think, two other times on the show, or at least last season with that question, and it totally. I mean, one of the people that answered that, I think he could already speak like three or four languages, and I mean, I wish I could even speak Spanish, but that's a good one for sure. Okay, last question. What would be the most surprising scientific discovery imaginable?
Hmm. Like besides magnets, um, I don't know. Let me think here.
I know these are kind of hard. Sorry. I like was just trying to think of different ones I haven't used already.
Would you throw aliens in that bucket?
Yeah, I mean if they actually discovered that would be I mean that would be pretty it wouldn't surprise me that there are aliens, but it would be super surprising that they discovered like an actual alien or an actual like something
Probably,
artifact.
right? Like,
Yeah.
well, it'd be hard to beat that one. I feel like.
Yeah, totally. No, that's a good one. Okay, that was the last question, but someone asked me in the chat to ask you my one of my old questions, and the question was, would you want to live forever?
Wow. So I've been thinking about this a lot recently because I've been reading up more on Alcor, which is the preservation company,
Yep.
and it's pretty fascinating stuff. And I would, I love life, and I think it's so interesting. So I don't want to go, like, I don't want to go anywhere. I would prefer that I'm not with a walker with like tennis balls on it like later on though. I'd like to be like where I'm at now or maybe a little
Yeah.
earlier.
I say that I say assume that you keep your health. I always say that.
Yeah, yeah. That would, because that's kind of a big caveat.
Yeah.
um, yeah, the Alcor stuff is pretty interesting. The way it was positioned was essentially like you couldn't bring people back, like you can resuscitate, like it was only so many years ago that we couldn't like do CPR or whatever, and so this is just like another extension of that. This cryo freezing, and so yeah, it's really really interesting stuff, and it's it's not as like it's not crazy out of reach expensive. Like they're starting to get it to where the price is relatively reasonable, and so it's
Yeah.
interesting.
It is definitely interesting. Do you know? I mean, I've read some on it in the past. Do you know what the prices are? I wonder if you get like a discount if you have your loved one do it too. I'm not even kidding. I wonder
You
if that's
do.
a thing. You do, right?
Yeah,
I
there's
thought I heard that.
a family discount, and it's I want to say, so there's different, you can either do just your head or you can do your head and your body, and so yeah, there's packages, and the I want to say the lowest, it was like in the 50 plus
Okay.
k range, like 55k range. Yeah, but then there's different fees associated with it, right? So there's like the initial one, and then it's almost like Netflix. There's like a month, like a an annual, and um, but yeah, it's. I thought it would be like way out, and and I
Yeah,
just listened to this podcast, and they're trying to make it more accessible.
that's so interesting. I mean, and I've heard of some people doing it, and it's so. I mean, you can't help but think about it, and I mean I'm totally in the same boat that I would want to live forever. I've had a majority of people, I'd say 85% of people on the show say no, they don't want to. Or people who have said yes say the only way they would say for sure yes is if there was some sort of like off button later on, as dark as that sounds. And I said, well, I've seen a TV show where I forget what it's called, but like they go to your family pays to like send you to this like afterlife thing where they can like visit you on like basically Zoom calls and like all this stuff.
Yeah.
And but there's like this like glitch or like portal in this world where you can like go kill yourself basically if you don't want to live forever. So they're like, okay, if I had a way that I could kill myself if I didn't want to live forever, then I'd do it. So not quite
Yeah.
living forever, but
That makes sense. Like I didn't even think about that. Like where like it could all of a sudden be aggravating. Like, I'm imagining it all like rainbows and ponies and stuff. But if you don't like what's going on and maybe society looks completely different, it would be great to have an off switch.
yeah. Um, some people are talking in the chat about Alcor, just the head. Oh, are you surprised? Did you not know that was a thing, Easy? I feel like that's pretty common, or I think maybe they even just used to do heads and now they're offering full body. I didn't even know they could do both. Black Mirror. Yeah, no, that's not the show. I'll think of the show for next episode and tell you guys. That wasn't the show.
Twilight.
No, it started with oh, Upload. That was the show. Kind of weird show, not the best acting at all, but it was an interesting concept, so I had to watch it.
Hmm.
Um, Brooke Hawk said "Getting Dark." Sorry, sorry to talk about the off switch. Um, this was awesome. Thank you so much for sitting through my really weird questions today and just telling us more about your work and what you're doing and why you're doing it. I mean, I'm so thankful that you came on the show and just shared that with everyone. So thank you.
Of course, Josie. I'm happy to. You're the best. I love the show. I love your work. I'm bullish on Josie. Can I buy the your token yet?
You can buy some of my tweets. I'm just kidding. Someone offered me that the other day. They were like trying to buy my earliest tweet, so I was like, no. Thanks though. But thank you. I cannot wait to be able to meet up again in the future at conferences and hang out. And to all of you here, can't wait to do that with you guys too. Hang in there, and thank you guys all for checking out the show. You saw on Twitter probably I posted the next 5 guests after Cryptograffiti, so we have a lot of people lined up that I'm super excited about. Every Thursday until I can even plan out has an episode, so definitely stay tuned or watch these later. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.
You guys